I'm gonna take you back for a second and go back to the Comic-Con world.
All right.
I know it's your bread and butter. How many shows? I mean, at your heyday, how many shows were you doing a year? Like, were you doing 52 shows?
No.
Because it felt like it at a certain.
It did feel like it. I think I average somewhere probably around 30 shows a year.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't want to say 40. I know I don't do 40 because I
feel like you've done 40 before.
I probably have, but recently I pared it down because there is a point where, as a creator, you gotta create, and so. But if you take out all the frou-frou language that we use in the art world, like you're a human factory, and so you gotta be home to produce new product, new merchandise. So I don't care if you're selling buttons or if you're selling artwork, and so that home time is becoming just as valuable as going to a show, because if you can, we talked about me reformatting my art, which I'm in the process of doing again. Like you gotta take time to basically, you know what, I'm gonna be losing a little bit of money by not doing shows, but when I come back, my profit margins are gonna skyrocket because I got new, fresh product, and it's dazzling people, and it's got all the new gimmicks and all the new printing techniques are being used on it, and so just like new cars, they don't push the same 1989 Buick Century. They gotta all right, we're gonna
make a new version of it.
Stop production on this, make a new version, roll it out, market it. Campaign it, and once it runs its course in a couple of years, we're going to roll out a new one. So I'm the same way with artwork.
It's really interesting because you have these characters who are iconic characters, and they'll go through and you'll see like a version of them, and then you'll be able to go, okay, like cool, that's a cool version, and then you go and revamp them and kind of bring it another level.
Right.
So you do sell a lot of prints.
Right.
Whenever you're kind of coming up with a new idea for a print or a new character, like where do you pull from? Because I know you like to go where the kids are popular, like what's popular with kids. I know you're a big fan of so much.
Right.
And you love to draw what you love.
Right. Exactly.
But what like kind of stands out when they're like, okay, cool, like there's this Five Nights at Freddy thing. Like,
right. Well,
there's this.
There's something to be said about drawing stuff that, like, initially you might not be familiar with. Like me, I also like to learn. I got a lot of other traits that bleed into this to make a perfect storm. Like, I love learning about new stuff. So when I haven't heard about something, that makes me more curious than like, I don't know anything about that. I'm not going to look into it. So I got nothing but time to listen and learn new information as I'm drawing whatever I'm drawing. So that's, once again, another synergy that goes in my direction, because as I'm working on any given thing, I can pop on a YouTube video that explains all about the other thing that I want to learn about. And so I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I think I want to draw this character, watch, a few seasons and, get a new fandom. Yeah. It's like everybody wins.
And then that way you can go through and you can know that character.
Yep.
And then
have a conversation about it. And
not,
be a hack that, I don't watch this crap. Yeah. I just want to sell it to you, But
if you're a fan of everything you do, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, cool. Like, you remember in that episode you do that.
Yep,
and it kind of gets that connection with a fan.
Exactly.
And I think that's what a lot of people are really interested in, is like, oh, cool. Like, yeah, we talked to the artist about it. He was the only one that had that particular version of this character.
Actually, I get most of the time, I'm the only one that'll even talk to him. Period. Like, man, nobody will talk to us about, like, there's like, yeah, thank you, but then there's like, hey, sometimes for me, just making that connection to having a real conversation about what they're into. And I'll get parents all the time, they'll circle back around or they'll shoot an email like, man, you're the only one that talked to my kid. They're on the spectrum and they have a hard time opening up, and you got them to open up and talk about stuff that they won't even talk to me about because, they feel too shy about it. Yeah. And I'm like joking and like, oh man, I hate that guy. Yeah, I wish that character would die. And it's a public service as well. I feel like we're like the Comic-Con ambassadors. I know it's a pretentious thing to say, but it's true.
No, you are.
Because I've had experiences we all have when we met our heroes and they let you down and they say something crazy and you're devastated. They don't care. Yeah. They move on with their life, but you're like, man, I was building up to this moment and now it's like a stain on my life. Yeah. That you gave me such a bad first impression when it could have easily went the other way. Yeah. And so I'm very cognizant of not crushing anybody. Like when people show me their artwork, I make sure to find something positive to say, even if it's terrible. Yeah. Because I was terrible. Like, it's not a matter of like, I don't look at artwork as a gift, by the way. I look at it as something a skill. Like there's nobody that has the gift of plumbing or the gift of being an electrician.
That's a gift right there.
Yeah,
Gift
it's not
of
a
plumbing.
gift. Like no, you went to school to learn how to do plumbing, or you just did street plumbing for a long time and you figured out how to do it. But same thing with art. It's just a matter of hey, same thing with people doing editing. You got the gift of editing. Like, no, I just
Practice.
use the programs
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah.
So I know how to use Adobe Premiere and all these programs. And so I think when you demystify art, even to yourself, it's easier to appreciate where people are, no matter where they are, especially if they're young. Older people are maybe a little bit less forgiving. Like if you're 46 and you're drawing like a 6-year-old, then it's probably not gonna happen, right?
Yeah.
But if you're 6 drawing like a 6-year-old, like, hey, you know what, kid? I think I see you got a propensity for technology and all that stuff. Yeah, definitely keep going and read these books and study this stuff.
Check out this thing, this drawing, this tablet, this drawing software, and then you can kind of.
I'm all about the software. Like I've probably gotten more kids. iPad should put me on the payroll. I've probably gotten more parents to get their kids iPad Pros than their marketing probably has, because they're like, oh, I'm going to get a service. It's like, I don't get a service, get an iPad Pro, because it's all in one. You don't have to worry about any other peripherals, and it's great. Because I got my daughter one, and who's also an artist, and she like took off with it, man. Like her art skills. I'm like a proud papa. Like
the next generation of artists.
Next generation, yeah. Got to keep it going.
I love it.
She's her, my girls. I got 2 boys, 2 girls. But my girls seem to be the only one that want to do artwork, and my boys want to build stuff. So I can't get them to, but they don't have the patience to do art. Like they want like instant gratification, hands on, So one's like a Lego guy, and one's like a pipe cleaner statue type guy, which they're pretty good in their own right. So
I love it, man.
yeah.
That's
My
something
youngest son actually makes movies too, so I'm happy about that.
He's still trying to follow in your footsteps because you wanted to be in the movies.
It is. I'm actually trying to get them to diversify. I got so many kids. It's like, all right, I need a computer programmer, an artist. I'm gonna need this and that.
You get a whole team, man.
You guys learn all these different skills, and that way I never have to hire outside the family.
I love it, man.
Yep. So
that's cool, and I think you've been a great inspiration to them.
I try to be, man. I try to be.
I mean, the fact that, I see them kind of looking up to you, doing artwork, and trying to, one thing that I can imagine is tough is just going away to all these different cons every weekend.
It actually helps. I think the best thing that ever happened to me growing up was my mom. She was single parent, and she would have to go off to work, but I love that alone time, man. And then, it gives you time to miss your parents, Same thing with your spouse. Like I travel, and sometimes we both go to shows together, sometimes she's at home, sometimes we go to different shows, but it's something about that cycle that I feel like is very primitive to man, to go out, hunt for something, bring it back, skin it, distribute the goods, and then take the tools you got from that last hunt to go hunt even bigger game.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's something primitively right, like in a primitive sense, to go away from your home to find your source of income, as opposed to like, oh, I work right around here, and it's like you come back like, what'd you catch? That's how entrepreneurship is. If you gear up, like those cheesy Batman montages, you put all your gear on, you strap on everything, and you're like, what'd you catch? All right, here's what we got. All right, here's what we can do with this. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this to do that. And so the feedback loop is just so gratifying. Even after 10 years, it's just like I don't see any signs of stopping. As a matter of fact, as you can experiment with it. You're like, what, I'm going to change it up, because you're your own boss.
Yeah.
You're like, you know what, I'm going to see if this will work combined with this, or maybe I'm going to try a whole new thing this year.
A/B testing. You try 2 different things. You try one with one person, see if it works. Try one with another person. If it has good success, you try this one again. See if you go back to it. You kind of play with it and see what works.
Right.
And you can do different sales techniques, different things.
Exactly. It's the perfect petri dish to try out any new thing you want. That's what I love about the Comic-Con industry. It's so pure, and it's so unregulated in certain areas that you can really try wild things. But they sell you. In my case, I buy a 10 by 20. They don't tell you like what you can do with it. Yeah. They just go, hey, here's your empty concrete block of space. And it's up to you to try really cool and creative things in it, which once again leads to the wall. But as you can see, nowadays I'm using the whole floor too.
Yeah.
So
you put your posters across the floor.
Yeah, every square I walk on them, people are like, "Oh my God, you're walking on your art," But it's another thing that attracts. They're looking like, "Man, that guy over there walking on his artwork. Let's go see what that's about."